They say you can't own nature, but Clarice Vaughn thought otherwise. When she arrived at Lake Haven, she didn't come with fishing gear or hiking boots. She came armed with contracts, lawyers, and a vision that had nothing to do with the lake's natural beauty. Her eyes weren't on the water. They were on the dollar signs reflecting off it. The rumors started slow. First, people whispered about new investors buying up cabins, then about construction crews seen surveying the land, but no one connected the dots. Clarice made sure of that dot. She was smart, or at least ruthless, buying property under shell companies, like Serenity Holdings LLC and Tranquil Waters Development. The names sounded peaceful, but their intentions were anything but. For 6 months, she acquired every piece of lakefront land she could, moving in silence while the rest of us enjoyed the calm that Lake Haven had always promised. My name is Roy Callan. I've lived here all my life. I managed the dam that feeds Lake Haven's waters for 15 years before retiring early. My grandfather, Henry Callan, built the log cabin I now live in back in the 1950s, carving out a small sanctuary on the shoreline. This lake wasn't just water and trees to me. It was heritage, memory, and legacy. I thought retirement would mean fishing, tending the cabin, and watching loons glide across the glassy water. I had no idea Clarice Vaughn was about to turn my peaceful haven into a battleground. You can learn a lot about a place if you've managed its water for over a decade. The way the current shifts before a storm, the slow rise of water levels in spring thaw, the warning signs of erosion, pressure buildup, or runoff damage. That was my job, to keep Lake Haven stable and safe. People may have seen a tranquil lake, but I saw a living system, delicate and precise. My grandfather built more than just a cabin. He helped design the original dam with local engineers. He recorded water flow patterns by hand, storing maps and notes in a metal filing cabinet that still sits in the old control station. Growing up, he taught me everything he knew how to read the water. He'd say, with a twinkle in his eye, when I took over as dam manager, I felt like I was stepping into his shoes. Every rainfall, every dry season, every maintenance inspection felt like a way to honor his work. So when I retired early to finally enjoy the lake, I felt like I had earned it. 15 years of service, a lifetime of respect for nature's balance. Clarice Vaughn didn't care about any of that. It was a Tuesday morning, early spring. The air was still cool, and a light mist hung over the lake like a veil. I had my tackle box, my old rod, and a thermos of coffee, ready to fish in the quiet. Rounding the bend near the pine grove, I saw something that didn't belong. A construction sign. No, not just one dozens. Big, glossy, professional signs staked into the ground like they owned the place. Lake Haven. Luxury estates to 60 premium rental cabins. Grand opening summer 2024. Future site of floating restaurant and marina. I stood there frozen, heart pounding. 60 cabins? Not 10. Not 20. 60. Around a lake that for decades had maybe 20 homes. Total. My grandfather's dock. The loons nesting on the far shore. The stillness of morning mist. All of it was about to be replaced with boat engines, music from floating parties, and strangers treating our lake like a theme park. Then I saw it, an artist's rendering of the development. Paved roads, streetlights, docks, jet ski rentals. A waterfront event center. They were turning Lake Haven into a commercial resort. I don't remember walking back to the dock. I only remember tying up my boat with shaking hands and marching straight to the HOA office. I had to know who was behind this. The HOA office wasn't much, just a converted garage behind the community center. But the power that flowed through that little building had grown exponentially since Clarice Vaughn took over as president. I walked in, boots still muddy from the lake, and saw her at a desk, typing away like she was composing an opera. She didn't even look up at first. Double quotes, Mr. Callan, isn't it? What can I do for you this morning? You can tell me what the hell 60 cabins are doing around my lake." Clarice's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. She stood, heels clicking, and pulled a thick folder from a filing cabinet. She laid out documents with the precision of someone who'd done this dance before. "This lake will become the crown jewel of our vacation rental empire," she said. "You'll either embrace the changes or find somewhere quieter to live." I stared at her. My lake? Her crown jewel. Clarice launched into her explanation with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. She had been quietly purchasing properties for 6 months using different company names. Serenity Holdings LLC, Tranquil Waters Development, Blue Horizon Realty. Each name created the illusion of diverse investors, but it all led back to her. "We've followed every zoning law and environmental regulation," she said, sliding a business card toward me. "Vaughn Development Group. The planning board approved our proposal unanimously." I held that card in my hand, feeling a chill settle in my stomach. This wasn't a dream. It was real. Clarice Vaughn wasn't just buying property. She was buying power, influence, and silence. "You're making a mistake," I told her. She just smiled again, eyes cold. "I don't make mistakes. I make progress." Walking back to my cabin, I felt like I was seeing the lake for the last time. The loons called from across the water, and a heron stood in the shallows. Soon it would all be gone. And I realized in that moment I couldn't let that happen. Some things are worth fighting for, even if you're the only one standing in the way. Just 3 days after confronting Clarice, Roy found the first shot fired, a formal HOA violation notice pinned to his door. The letter, embossed with the HOA's logo, claimed his property had improper waterfront maintenance. Specifically, the 60-year-old dock his grandfather built didn't meet the new aesthetic guidelines, and his tackle box was considered visual clutter. A $500 fine was imposed, along with a demand for a written compliance plan detailing how Roy would improve the visual harmony of his property with the planned resort. Roy saw through it instantly. This wasn't about maintenance, it was psychological warfare. Clarice was trying to pressure him into leaving, using bureaucracy as a weapon. Her strategy was clear: make his life miserable, wear him down, and force him to surrender his caveat. Soon, Roy noticed neighbors avoiding him. People who had greeted him warmly for years now crossed the street when he passed. Conversation stopped when he approached. He felt like a stranger in his own community. Earl Simmons, his 73-year-old neighbor and longtime friend, finally clued. "Him in, Roy," Earl said. "That woman's been telling people you were fired from the dam for safety violations." It hit Roy like a punch. Clarice was slandering him, spreading lies to make him look unstable. She told residents he'd endangered the community, that he was a liability, and couldn't be trusted around critical infrastructure. In reality, Roy had retired early by choice and was recognized for exemplary service and safety. But rumors spread faster than facts. Clarice was undermining his credibility, isolating him socially, and weakening any resistance he might pose. Determined not to let Clarice steamroll him, Roy sought legal help. He found Logan Pierce, a young attorney fresh out of law school. Logan looked like he barely shaved, but when Roy explained what was happening, Logan's face hardened. "This is corporate bullying," Logan said. "She's using loopholes, intimidation, and slander to force you out. We're going to fight this." Logan wasn't just passionate, he was smart. He helped Roy gather documents, reviewed HOA bylaws, and identified how Clarice's development plan might violate environmental regulations and zoning limits. Together, they filed a formal complaint to the planning board demanding a review of Clarice's development and its impact on the lake. Roy wasn't alone. Earl Simmons began rallying other longtime residents who were quietly outraged by Claris's takeover. They remembered Lake Haven before outsiders arrived, before profit became the goal. The community began organizing. Petitions were signed, local media contacted, and a public hearing was requested. Roy shared his dam management records, showing how the lake's water system couldn't handle the stress of heavy commercial use. His knowledge of the lake's hidden channels and overflow points became a crucial weapon in the fight. The movement gained momentum. People who once avoided Roy now stood with him. The town scheduled a public hearing to determine the future of Lake Haven. The public hearing was held in the high school auditorium. Roy, Logan, Earl, and dozens of residents arrived with facts, maps, and heartfelt testimony. They painted a picture of a fragile ecosystem at risk. Then Claris arrived surrounded by lawyers, consultants, and a PR team. Her presentation was a spectacle. Slideshows, renderings, and inflated promises of jobs, tax revenue, and prosperity. The planning board looked dazzled. Claris handed them glossy reports from independent firms, reports that Logan revealed were funded by her own companies. Logan's arguments were compelling, but in the end, the board voted 5-0 in favor of Claris's project. As bulldozers and concrete trucks rolled in, something strange began happening. Machinery got stuck in the soft shoreline mud. A newly laid foundation cracked down the middle, forcing a work stoppage. Pumps worked overtime to remove water seeping from beneath, but no matter what they did, it returned. Crews complained of unstable ground and odd water flow patterns. Roy watched from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with grim understanding. The lake's underground water channels were being disrupted, channels only he truly understood after managing the dam for 15 years. What Claris saw as a setback, Roy saw as a signal. The lake was fighting back. He documented everything: photos of the damage, notes on water flow, and detailed maps showing where the development clashed with nature's design. With Logan's help, Roy filed emergency environmental complaints. The construction was not only disruptive, it was dangerous. Claris didn't retreat, she retaliated. Accusing Roy of sabotage, she filed a police report claiming he had tampered with construction equipment. Officers showed up at Roy's cabin with a search warrant. They found nothing. But the damage to Roy's reputation continued. Claris called a press conference, painting Roy as a disgruntled retiree obsessed with stopping progress. Local news ran the story. Former dam manager under investigation for sabotage. Neighbors once again avoided him. Despite the smear campaign, Roy refused to back down. He returned to the dam's control room, now largely forgotten, and pored over decades of data. What he found terrified him. Claris's construction was blocking critical overflow paths. With heavy spring rains forecasted, the lake could flood, causing real catastrophe. Roy acted swiftly. He and Logan submitted a detailed flood risk assessment to the planning board and county officials. They warned that Claris's project would cause a dangerous water surge. Predictably, they were ignored. So Roy went public. Holding a press conference on the lake shore, Roy revealed everything: the maps, the risk analysis, even live drone footage of water rising near Claris's construction site. Earl Simmons and dozens of longtime residents stood with him. Logan presented legal documents proving Claris bypassed environmental reviews using fraudulent reports. The media took notice. Headlines changed. Dam manager warns of flood risk. Lake Haven at risk from overdevelopment. Pressure mounted on officials who had supported Claris. Days later, the storm hit. Rain pounded Lake Haven for 72 hours. Water surged, blocked by Claris's unapproved structures. The foundation of her event center crumbled. The floating restaurant detached from its moorings and crashed into the marina. Mudslides wrecked cabins still under construction. Equipment was submerged. The lake, usually calm and reflective, raged. State environmental inspectors arrived within hours. They launched an investigation and quickly suspended Clarice's development permits. Her negligence was documented, her fraudulent reports exposed. The disaster, broadcast across the state, marked the end of her project. Clarice Vaughn left town in disgrace. Her development empire collapsed. The HOA board members who backed her quietly resigned. Roy, Earl, and Logan became local heroes. The town recognized Roy for his years of service and for saving Lake Haven. The dam's control station, once forgotten, was restored and named after Roy's grandfather, Henry Callan. The lake began healing. Wildlife returned. The loons nested. Again, peace was restored, not just because of nature, but because people like Roy remembered what was worth protect.